Well, I'm Bart Rademacher, and this is Transformational Art at Burning Man, and making sure that I make all the connections. Yesterday I was a little slow. It bummed me out. I'm absolutely fascinated, and no pun intended, of course, and Joe already knows why I'm saying that. But I'm absolutely fascinated by the incredible talents and genius of all these amazing artists and craftsmen and architects and engineers and builders, bringing in these pieces, these installations, from the smallest ones to the biggest ones. Because as I keep on saying in all these interviews, I mean, this is such a wonderful gift for all of us burners, 70,000 plus people, seeing how we can expand our brains, how we can expand our imagination. And I'm actually a physician, I'm also a coach. And, oftentimes, I'm dealing with one's own limitations. How do we overcome these limitations? And what a beautiful and organic way, an authentic way that our heart gets to get connected with these installations so that we can expand and really discover the magic of what life is all about, simply because somebody else thought of that, something that you couldn't have thought of or created. And now that gift is that you get to experience it. But not only experience it, you really participate in that. And that's the beautiful thing about Burning Man. And that's exactly what Joe Culpepper is doing with his installation called Fascination. And he was awarded one of the honoraria for this year, which is awesome, which is an important element of all these successes. And so I am fascinated to hear, what it is that you do, and your background too in magic. It's one of my favorite words, by the way, my vocabulary, the magic. And so I'm really eager to hear, what your installation is all about and what we can expect.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me here, Bart. I really appreciate it. So, Dr. Bart.
No, Bart's fine. I forget the doctor. On the fly, I'm Cosmic Doc, but that's it.
Cosmic Doc, what a great name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're asking about fascination. We're very grateful to have received the Black Sea Arts grant for Fascination, which is a participatory optical illusion installation.
Right.
Phrase I should use. So, what it is a giant optical wheel that creates an illusion for people on the flyer, but it's also activated by the body power of whoever is on. We're pretty sure it's going to be a bicycle. It might be some other kind of mechanism, but a crank mechanism that turns the wheel. And ideally, we're trying to position the bike so that you can see the wheel turn and the illusion you're creating at the same time that you might be able to see other people farther away reacting to it, because it's going to be about 10 to 12 feet high off the ground, and it's going to be 7 to 8 feet in diameter, the circle of the wheel, and then about 3 feet wide. So just to give you an idea of the dimensions of it, and people will see the illusion taking place from a distance, and then if they want to, they can take a turn powering the wheel themselves, creating that illusion for others. And the philosophy behind it, which is part of why magic has always inspired and interested me, is that performing art of magic means that at every magic performance, you always have at least two levels. You have spectator perception level, and then you have more of a meta level, which is the magician knowing what's kind of secretly happening behind the scenes. So this optical illusion installation allows people to choose which of those two roles, or if they want both of those roles, to interact with the illusion. And I have a little miniature model,
Uh-huh.
tiny model, which is part of the story and inspiration for the Fascination. And
Right.
so I'll turn it to get a little sense
Oh,
of
that's
the
right. Yeah.
optical
Yep.
happens. So as it turns one way, it gives you the illusion that the ring is growing,
Yeah,
and as it turns the other way, it gives
yeah,
you the illusion that it's shrinking. But the ring maintains the exact same size as it's
yeah.
manipulated. And
You know,
this is,
I have to say
yeah, go
this
ahead.
is that being a Dutchman myself, one of the great optical illusionists, as you know, is Escher, and it's just fascinating, how you can have this multi-dimensional appearance when it's all just still flat. And so what you're doing is you're creating something that doesn't change, but it has the appearance of changing, and that's awesome.
I love MC Escher. Yeah, he's very much inspiration. There's a whole branch of magic and art, like you're indicating, that's linked to optical illusions and the way that our perceptions create these transformations, which also I think metamorphosis or transformation is this year's theme at Burning Man. Uh, these art pieces that are almost like magical realist art pieces. There's another artist that you might know about, or that other people might be interested in learning about if they don't know him already, named Rob Gonsalves, Gonsalves, and he uh, has his own take on those MC Escher techniques, and I love his stuff. I'm very inspired by his work.
And it brings. I love what you just said. I mean, you said with magical realism, and in this world of so many rules, and people are accepting you or rejecting you, and and the fear of having that rejection. So therefore, you have to behave and think in a certain way. And so, but within us, within our brains, especially the kid within us, we like to imagine things. We love magic. We love surprises, and we want to get into that fantasy world, but sometimes we limit ourselves from doing that simply because we're scared, how the world is going to respond. That's what's so brilliant about Burning Man. And then what you're doing is you're giving us, the kid inside of us, that opportunity to take in these optical illusions, which is straight into your brain, and have that fun and making up that magic within your own mind and then your own soul, and having the support and assistance from you to make that happen versus trying to figure it out. Or quite frankly, some people like to have some additional oral support to make that happen where they smoke it, but now you're doing it naturally. And for me, I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing when you've created something that really allows us to imagine.
Yeah, that's really the goal with Magic Lifetime, allowing people to access that playful world that we all inhabited when we were kids, where anything really is possible. So playing and testing with the limits of human perception,
Right.
interpretation, to find that space again.
And you loving or being involved with magic for quite some time, I guess it must be a lot of fun, to see how people are responding. And I know you actually wrote in a journal or co-edited a journal on magic. So my question for you, Joe, is what's your inspiration? How did your inspiration come to be that you want to bring something to Burning Man?
Well, they are linked to kind of various phases of my life. Um, my first job, I'm from Sacramento, California, and my first job was in my hometown's magic shop um, called Grand Illusions, which still exists. And I met when I was about 14. Um, I became best friends with another kid who I went to high school with, and we would perform magic shows for at kids' parties and busk for tips in coffee shops, and then eventually perform at dinner theaters and more adult kind of venues. And we really kind of grew up learning magic in this shop. And just so happens that the owner and the operator is a big Burning
Oh
Man
wow.
person, and that's his name is Steve Johnson. And so the Fascination team, it's a small little team of us coming from Montreal, Canada, where I live now, and we'll be camping with his camp, which is called Ludus Symposium. Um, so it's really special uh, for me to kind of be um, involving one of the early magic mentors and figures in my life who's still a dear friend in this later phase of my life. After going to high school in Sacramento and having that job at the magic shop, I went to UC Santa Cruz. I continued doing magic. I ended up coming to Canada to do an MA and a PhD, and ended up writing my dissertation on magic fiction and doing lots of research on magic history, which is uh, kind of my academic specialty, my area of expertise. Uh, I'd say most currently is sort of the golden age of stage conjuring, which is 1880 to 1930. And now I work at work. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at Concordia University and at Cirque du Soleil. It's what we call an industrial postdoc, so it's kind of university partners with an industrial partner, and for me, that partner is research and development teams at Cirque du Soleil, where we're working on magic circus um, hybrids and prototypes. So before that even began, though, I was doing research on circus at a place called the National Circus School, which is where I'm right now. And it was at that time that I applied to the Black Rock City program because Montreal's far away. There's more complications when you're an international artist bringing art to the playa, a long ways to travel, um, and there are more costs involved, more red tape and bureaucratic things involved. And I applied because I was performing magic at a few different places. I performed at Burning Man headquarters in San Francisco, where a few friends work in UC Santa Cruz. Quite a lot of crossover between the UC Santa Cruz and Burning Man communities. And a friend asked me to perform there, and I met Katie Hazard, who's the project manager for a big number of arts projects at Burning Man, and our project was one of those. And then I also performed magic at the Edwardian Ball in San Francisco, um, and an event called Dracula's Guest. And the people who organize that and run that are big Burning Man people as well, like Justin Katz and Devin Madison. I'm saying her name wrong. Madison, I think is the way I should be saying it. Anyway, so it's kind of like a confluence of all of these different, little worlds, starting in Northern California and continuing here in Montreal and Southern Quebec, and in August going to Black Rock City.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to reiterate what you said. It's being international, or being local, in fact, is hard enough. But being international is even harder. And so, one of the purposes of these interviews, by the way, Joe, is really getting, people to connect with you in advance and help you, in any way you might need help. And specifically, if it's manpower, we need help, of course, putting things together, transporting things, and that kind of stuff. But also the financial end. We don't always have enough avenues to gather that. And so, for me, it's always a shout out to anybody listening. It's our job really to help the artists. I mean, they're doing some tremendous work over months, sometimes years, to bring into a manifestation something that we get to enjoy. And so I'm going to ask you to put any links that you have, for the project page, or GoFundMe pages, so that people can find a way to support you, because I think it's our job, and I thank you in advance for doing that. Um, so one of the things that I love, and it's really about um, that opportunity where we experience magic. And for me, being the scientist, but also from the holistic perspective, understands that we have all these neural networks. I mean, we have a quadrillion number of synapses in our brain. And what's neat about what you can do for us is, help us see something differently, so that we create new synapses, and then our world expands. But what I like what you're doing, which is awesome, is that we have a choice. I mean, happier people have more choices in life, I think. And with your installation, people have a choice. They can just observe and watch, and take it in, but they also can create that. And then in that creation, not only have the optical illusion for themselves, but energetically affecting all the people around you. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. But there's one shout out that I know that you want to let people know about how that happens, how you need magicians on the playa.
How you become magicians?
Well, you said you become, if you're on the bicycle to do a spin the wheel, you become a magician, right? So you were telling me earlier that you want a lot of magicians to help turn the wheel, so that
True.
other people can have the experience.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, one way that, and it's true that, like you say, some people, uh, when I perform a magic effect for them, they have to know. They need to know the answer. And some people don't want to know. They would like to just stay in that magical place. And like you say, they have a choice here because it's a participatory project, and because Fascination requires the participation of at least one person who kind of becomes a magician on the bicycle. That also means that I want to make sure that people um, understand how to interact with it and get some help and some um, friendly supervision while they do that. So I'm going to put up at the end of this, I'll put up a link where it's kind of just an Excel sheet with a schedule of, of hours for people who would like to volunteer to maybe help others experience the illusion for maybe an hour. Um, maybe 1 hour block or 2 hour blocks. I'll figure out which one of those is the most feasible.
Right.
Um, but it's a long event. Burning Man goes on for a while, and this is planned to be available both during the day and at night. So obviously, we all need to sleep at some point. So it would be amazing if people who are interested in helping out, making sure that people understand not to climb the wheel itself, and also how to maybe pedal the bike in a way that makes the illusion work well without straining the mechanism. Um, I'd be grateful for anyone who wants to be part of that.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. So, and I think that's the beauty about Burning Man, and not all the installations you can do that, but having that, and I, me being a how would I put it, a scientist in humanity, if you will. I think it's a wonderful place to be instrumental, you know, in affecting somebody's experience, just by rotating that wheel, and then having the joy, that you're changing somebody's life in that moment. And I talked to Michael Bearden yesterday, and he's got this beautiful thing, and what struck me in talking with him was his desire to help others, have a wonderful experience, and this is the same thing. I think it's absolutely wonderful. But I'm curious about one thing, and why, what's behind the word for you on of the name of the installation, Fascination. What's the meaning for you on that?
Fascination is a word because aside from the kind of everyday that we're all familiar with, which is, we say, oh, that's fascinating, that's very interesting. Um, the root of the word is actually, if you look it up in the Oxford English Dictionary, is actually linked to conjuring. It's actually linked to the
Really?
magic of fascinator. Is fascinator is when you look at the etymological history of the word, magician. So that's a fun connection. It's almost closer to like a mesmerizer or mesmerization in that sense of the definition. And when you look at a lot of these optical illusions, uh, there's that sense of wonder and also almost hypnotic trance-like, a hypnotic kind of trance-like experience of them because you just want to keep looking at them to under, understand what's going on with your eyes and your mind's interpretation of what your eyes are seeing.
I like it. Thank you for that education, and I'll add something else to it. And being the scientist of humanity, Carl Jung has done some wonderful work on archetypes, and Carolyn Niss is another one who researches. And for those who are not quite familiar with it, and pardon me if I don't get it quite right, but really, the archetypes is about the symbolic connection you have with that world, and a single world, a single word or archetype really connects with so many characteristics and attributes of who we are and our identity and as a human. And so the main four main archetypes is the king and queen is one. It's the lover, it's the warrior, and then you have the magician. And those four parts make a significant, or how should I put it, are significant in how we show up as humans. And I know some brilliant people. In fact, a fellow Bernard Raj, he coaches on archetypes, and I'll probably put that link on there as well, because it's a wonderful way for us to connect with the magic of life, the conjuring, and the fascination of life, if you will, right? Because I think a lot of that's where our energy comes from. The lover is the beautiful, central and intimate part of life, but it's the magician that's the creator that makes the beautiful things. And so I want to applaud you for bringing this gift in your life in over the years and in the future, but particularly in Burning Man, because we need more of that magic. And if you listen to some of my interviews, I think pretty much every single time I use the word magical. So you are the true magician, Joe. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Bart. Thanks for celebrating that.
So I'm going to give you the last word. If there's anything that you want people to know or shout out, what you want to share.
I'm very curious about those at Burning Man with experience using
Using what? You lost there for a second. What?
solar lighting. So, anybody who has any advice about um, kind of solar powered floodlights that might be able to light an object from below that's 12 feet above the light source. I'm not totally satisfied with what I've found in my research, and because the Burning Man environment is so harsh, and the fly dust gets everywhere and affects things. Anyone who has some good leads on light, lighting I'd really appreciate that. Or if anybody happens to have any extra ones that we could incorporate to help light the area, that would be amazing. Um, a lot of the budget is going, and I'm having no, I don't have quite as much money for lighting as I'd like. So
Okay.
I'll put
So
that out there.
yeah. So what I'm going to ask you to do, Joe, if you don't mind just putting that respect on, you're getting a lot of feedback right now. I think it might be your mic. I'm going to mute you for a second. There you go. So I'm going to mute you for a second. So what I'm going to invite you to do, Joe, is if you can just write a little blurb underneath, once we post this, so that people can know. In fact, my son is in solar energy, so maybe he's starting with a new startup company. So I'll reach out to him right after this. But again, just to rephrase what Joe was saying, solar lighting to help light the installation during the day and at night, I guess, or whether it's batteries or whatever, because you need the help. And so I'm going to ask you just to write a blurb because we lost the volume there for a moment. And so, but anyway, as I wrap it up, I really want to thank Joe and really appreciate you with this interview. It's really my gift to the playa to showcase all the artists and so that we get to have that more personal connection with you in advance, so that when we go to the places, oh yeah, I remember Joe, and the magician. And that's really cool. So wrapping up, I'm Dr. Bart Rademacher, and this is Transformational Art at Burning Man. And Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Bart. I really appreciate it. See you out there.
Awesome. See you out there.